Hey everybody, Derek Craig here from Magnus Broadheads. I'm a mechanical engineer. I've been doing R&D work for Magnus Broadheads for over 10 years, probably 12 or 13 years now. I wanted to make this video to address a few topics that seem to have cropped up quite a bit, especially in the last year, but in the last 2 or 3 years actually. And this year, quite frankly, it just feels like it's out of control. So sit back as we address topics such as heavy broadheads, heavy arrows, FOC, and shot placement on big game animals. So as you may or may not know, Mike Somm is the owner of Magnus Broadheads, and Mike founded Magnus Broadheads 37 years ago, as of 2021 when I'm recording this. So Mike has been in this game a long time, creating cut-on-cut contact broadheads made in the United States with a lifetime warranty. I've known Mike for over a decade, and being a mechanical engineer, he and I connected years ago through turkey hunting and then deer hunting, and then he got me involved on various R&D projects. So he and I have formed a close working relationship over the last decade or more. The archery industry has always gone through trends, and right now it seems like there's a trend, which maybe it's not even trend is an accurate description, but there is a movement towards heavy broadheads, heavy arrow setups, high FOC, which there's nothing wrong with that. But we get emails and messages through social media on these very topics, and I wanted to, on behalf of Mike Somm and myself, address these and what Magnus's stance is on these types of setups and what that equates to in shot placement and hopefully translates to in the field with positive results for yourself. So I say all that because probably the most common question that we're getting these days is, why at Magnus do we not make a 200 grain or 250 grain or 300 grain cut on contact broadhead? To properly answer that question, you have to understand the business model that Magnus Broadheads is. Magnus Broadheads is owned by Mike Somm in Great Bend, Kansas. He has a workforce that includes himself and 5 other employees. He's been doing this since the mid to early 80s. Over that time, he's seen the archery industry grow. He's seen the archery industry compress. Right now, we're into a big growth spurt, even though everything that's going on in the world, the archery industry in a whole is actually going crazy, which is great for hunters like us. Small companies like Magnus don't have deep reservoirs of cash when it comes to developing new products or expanding product lines. It's just not fiscally something that happens in such a small type of company. Some of these other broadhead companies, which have been bought up by larger conglomerates, have deeper resources to pull money from when it comes to product development, maybe offering different options in existing product lines. Mike and I have discussed adding heavier broadheads or different broadhead models to our lineups for a number of years. But here's the reality. For us to take an existing lineup, such as our Stingers and Stinger Buzzcuts or our Black Hornet type of broadheads, up to a, say, 200 grain level, requires a different blade. It will probably be a larger and thicker blade, a heavier ferrule, beefed up ferrule. To do all that, requires engineering time and R&D time and testing. If we go to a larger, thicker blade, that affects aerodynamics. There's an investment in time and resources that we would have to put into developing that product. But the bigger thing is the machining costs and the production costs themselves. For us to gear up for a new broadhead, which, yes, a Stinger or Stinger Buzzcut is an existing broadhead, but taking it to a 200 grain or 250 grain level is essentially a new broadhead. We've ran the numbers, and for us and our company, we're talking somewhere in the neighborhood of a $30,000 capital investment into that project. Now, when you look at prices and profit margins on broadheads, $30,000 is huge for us to recuperate. Even if we could go to the well and extract $30,000 of capital to invest in the project, the ROI on that would be so long that it doesn't make sense. Also, we're a relatively small production facility. our current machining equipment is maxed out with the lineups we have. Now we're looking to add additional machining capacity, but to do so, that's just to keep up with our current demand on our current products. We'd also have to have labor force, overhead goes up, the whole ROI just drags out longer and longer. So corporately, it does not fit into our business model. Very similar when you start talking about single bevel broadheads. It doesn't fit into our model, and for us to design a broadhead or a version of our broadheads in a single bevel head, it doesn't make sense financially for us. Further, we believe in the tried and true products that we make and we offer. Our broadheads have killed every game animal on the planet Earth. We get a very, very tiny amount of reported emails back when somebody damages a broadhead when it hits, say, the heavy shoulder bone on an elk or a moose. And we get an overwhelming majority of feedback back from customers who have had positive success, that have recovered their animals, have had great blood trails, short recoveries, and we get those great grip and grin trophy photos. So what do we think of the whole heavy arrow, high FOC concept at Magnus? We're not against it at all. We've actually worked with several of the leaders in the industry when it comes to heavy setups or high FOC setups. Myself, I run kind of a little bit on the heavier side, but not extreme heavy setup. For reference, here's one of my arrows that I actually hunt with. I wouldn't call it extreme heavy, but it's definitely heavy relative to what we used to shoot years ago. This is a Victory V1 arrow shaft, 300 spine. It's wrapped on the end. I like feathers, so it's got 3 feathers on it. I've got a nocturnal knock in here. I have a 100 grain brass insert, and I shoot a 125 grain Black Hornet Serra Razor head. Total weight, per my notes here on my setup, is 538 grains total weight that you got right here. 15% FOC, okay? I don't care about total weight, and I don't care about FOC. I had to go out to my barn before I started this video and measure them because, quite frankly, I don't care. It just flies really, really well out of my setup. I shoot this out of a Elite Ritual 33, which is not a speed bow. It's a wonderful shooting bow, but not a speed bow. I've never chronoed it, but when I take the data and put it into an online calculator, it estimates my speed at around 245 foot per second. Based on this arrow weight and that speed, the calculators come up with 77 foot-pounds of kinetic energy and 0.606 slugs of momentum. Now, we can argue little nitpicks here and there or whatever. It doesn't matter to me. I'm a mechanical engineer, and I'm as anal as it gets about going to the closest decimal. In the end, it doesn't matter. These numbers are close enough. Now, I'm not saying that this is the end-all be-all, but according to Realtree's website, or one of their calculators I use to plug in this stuff, they say, and I quote, "My setup is sufficient for any game animal on the planet." Again, I'm not saying Realtree is the ultimate authority, but they're pretty good, and quite frankly, I'm comfortable with this setup on anything that I ever want to hunt. What I do know is I'm a mechanical engineer, and I know efficiencies when it comes to cutting through something. Look, what I do know, though, is shot placement matters. I recently posted a video on the Magnus YouTube channel about me shooting a gold tip arrow with a Black Hornet, and one had a stinger on it. Out of this same bow, I think the total weight was under 400 grains. I don't remember exactly what it was. And I was punching through an industrial steel drum lid with that setup. And yet the comments come back on the YouTube channel about how the durability in these heads is lacking because somebody hits a shoulder joint or an elbow joint on an elk or a moose, or somebody argues that the aluminum ferrules aren't tough enough and that the heads fall apart. I don't really know what you can get besides shooting into a concrete wall that's a tougher material than an industrial duty steel drum lid. Look, no broadhead is indestructible, but Magnus broadheads are as tough as they come. Made in the USA, and we give you that lifetime warranty. I say all this because shot placement matters. Bow hunting fundamentally is still the same thing in 2021 as it was in 2000 or in 1990 or in 1980, or go back as far in history as you want to. shot placement on a game animal matters, okay? I've seen a lot of online comments on social media, various YouTube channels about how if you're shooting heavy setups, high FOC, single bevel, heavy broadheads, you name it, I've seen all the comments where all of a sudden body position of the animal doesn't matter. I'm seeing frontal shots. I'm seeing quartering two shots by some of the most popular online content creators in the hunting space. And it's absolutely baffling to me. Then we get emails that come in and somebody says that they saw XYZ hunting show take a quartering two shot on an elk, so they decide to do the same thing, and then they break their broadhead or arrow or whatever, or they don't find it and don't know, on an elk that's quartering to them because they hit the elbow joint or they hit the really thick leg bone right there that goes through the shoulder. And a lot of times they don't even find the animal, but yet they blame the broadhead as the problem. Here's the deal. Shot placement matters. You cannot blame our broadhead or anybody else's broadhead if you can't make a proper shot and choose a proper shot. I've taken quartering two shots and I've known the risk. I shot a great buck last year on the ground, quartering to me. I put it right in by his shoulder. I actually shattered the leg bone and went completely through him. The broadhead was sticking out the other side. Okay. So full penetration at 21, 22 yards. I knew the risk going into this shot. I took that risk. If I failed, I was not blaming the broadhead. Thankfully, I did not fail. Most of the time, I take quartering away, wait for broadside shots. That's what I do. It's just good bow hunting practice. All right, here's a quick edit from a doe that I killed a few weeks ago. And in the end, I got a little summary. And the verbiage is just quite harsh, to be quite honest, because it's very aggravating when Magnus Broadheads gets blamed for bad shot placement. So sit back and watch this quick clip. We got blood. We got good blood. Like that. Lots of bubbles. What we got there? I'll take that any day. Magnus Black Hornet Sarah Razor. This is the 125 grain head. You can see the massive hole it left. I actually hit her a little higher than I wanted. I wanted to hit her down here. She went 80 to 90 yards or so. Good blood trail after about 10 yards. The blood started pumping. She was very easy to find. Couldn't be happier. Don't know the total weight. Don't care the total weight. Don't care the FOC. I don't care that this is not a single bevel broadhead, which all of a sudden is got to be the must have. At Magnus, we don't do that. We just make you lifetime guarantee heads, lifetime, no questions asked, guarantee, made in the USA. This head, 0 damage. Granted, it hit her up here in the ribs, went through both lungs, stayed off the shoulder. Not that I couldn't have put this through the shoulder. I probably could have. This is just a white-tailed doe in Indiana, not the biggest thing. But we get all these guys that call in, complain that they hit an elk or a moose or other big game, really big game animal, and they hit them square in the shoulder or right in that elbow joint, and they blame the head. I just did a video of shooting 4 heads into a steel drum. Check that out, into a steel drum lid. Check that out. Stay off the freaking shoulder, guys. I am no pulmonary expert. I'm no vascular expert. I'm no anything knows anything about anatomy. I'm a mechanical engineer and I know mechanics. And this head, putting it in the right spot is gonna work every single time. On an elk or a moose, that bone right there is the densest, hardest part of that animal. Stay off of it.
We make mistakes. If you hit it, don't blame the broadhead. Look in a freaking mirror and blame yourself, okay? We're here for you guys. We're here to help, but we can't shoot the animals for you. We make mistakes. I make mistakes. I've lost animals. It sucks. It hurts, especially if you're going out of state on hunt. But by golly, that's hunting. And quit blaming broadheads. Again, we take pride, 37 years in business, made right here in the USA, lifetime warranty. Stay off that bone. If you're intentionally shooting them quartering to you or into that bone and you don't get the animal or you break the head or break something else, that's on you. It's not on Magnus or any other broadhead manufacturer.
All right, so I hope all of you understand why Mike and I discussed making a video like this. I hope you understand why we are not going to produce in the foreseeable future, at least, any 200 grain or 250 grain or 300 grain broadheads or any single bevel. We believe in what we produce. We have got an overwhelming, like 99% plus percent of positive feedback from our customers over all these years. The markets are too small for us to do what some of you are wanting us to do. I hope you also understand why I was so firm on shot placement. It is so critical. You cannot blame a broadhead. And I hope you understand our frustration with that. When we get these emails blaming us or people going on social media is the worst, and they just start bashing a product when they're the ones that screwed up. It's very aggravating as a company who tries to produce the best broadhead we can at the price point that we are working in. So with that, always remember, Magnus Broadheads, we've been in business for over 37 years now. Made in the USA, lifetime warranty, no questions asked. Great Bend, Kansas. So thank you so much for all your support. The amount of orders in the last couple of years in particular has just been absolutely staggering, and the support that we get is overwhelming. So with that, God bless. Stay safe out there. Deer seasons are here, so stay safe and enjoy. Hope you shoot the buck of your dreams, or you fill your freezer with a lot of great venison or whatever your game animal of choice is. As always, God bless. Check us out at magnusbroadheads.com.